Hello everybody, Mrs. Bolin here. We're going to take a look at Learning Target 1.3, I Can Simplify Expressions. And in today's notes, we have split this learning target up to involve two different skills. So the order of the skills matter, and we're going to practice the two different skills separately before we move on to try a couple examples where you have to do both skills in the same problem. So the first skill number one, if we look at these three examples here, we see that we have a number times parentheses with some stuff inside the parentheses. A number times parentheses with some stuff. And even in example 3, I have a number. The number is just on the right side of the parentheses, but I still have a number times parentheses with some stuff inside. Anytime you see a number right next to parentheses or being multiplied by parentheses, it is a skill called distributive property. Also called distributive property. And what this tells us, if we look at example 1, is if we have -2 times these parentheses, we have to multiply -2 by both parts or by both terms. So a refresher, what is a term? Terms are separated by plus and minus signs. So in the first example, inside parentheses, we have 2 terms. 1 is a constant term. 9m is a variable term. Again, variables are letters like X, Y, A, B, P, etc. And here, this is one term. This is 9 right next to the variable m. So this is a variable term. So what we need to do is distribute this -2 to multiply it by the 1. -2 times 1 gives me -2. And I also have to distribute the -2 by the second term, or the second part, which is 9m. -2 times 9m gives me -18m. You have to be very careful. Watch your signs, watch your positive and negatives. Be careful when multiplying a constant times a variable term. We have to stop here. -2 minus 18m. -2 is a constant term. -18m is a variable term. And we'll talk more about this when we get to skill number 2. All right, example 2. 8 times parentheses means I need to do 8 times 2x, or distribute the 8 inside the parentheses to the 2x. 8 times 2x gives me 16x. And I also have to remember to distribute the 8 to the second term, or to the second part. 8 times a -10. Be careful, you have to keep the sign that you see in front of the number. So this is a -10. 8 times -10 gives us -80. Example 3 looks a little bit different because the number that we are distributing, or that we have to multiply to both terms inside parentheses, the number is actually on the right. It's not a big deal. The number that we're distributing is a -9. So we're doing -9 times n gives us -9n. -9 times -4 gives us +36. We're going to hold off on this, you try, and come back to it. Now let's take a look at skill number 2. So now if I'm looking at skill number 2, this is a skill called combine like terms. Combine like terms. And we've already talked about what a term is, but what are like terms? So like terms mean that they are the same type of term. Either they are constants, just numbers, so we can combine them, or they are the same type of variable term. So if they're both variable terms, we can also combine those. So in example 4, I have -14x minus 3x, or another way to think of this is I have a -14x and I also have a -3x. These are both variable terms, right? We see that they both have an x. So we can combine these. We can combine these like terms. A -14 minus 3 will give us a -17x. Let's take a look at example 5. Example 5, I can tell these are not all like terms. What I like to do is sometimes underline the terms that are like terms or use different colors like I'll do in this example. So if I want to find my variable terms, I see that I have a v, which is a variable, and a 14v, which is a variable. So I can combine these. They are like terms, v plus 14v. If there's no number in front of the variable, that means there's a 1 there. So I'm doing 1v plus 14v to give me 15v. And I still have some other terms left over. I have a positive 1 and a positive 4. These would be constant terms. So I can do 1 plus 4 to give me a positive 5. So now I have a variable term and a constant term. We have to leave it like that. We cannot do 15v plus 5 and say that it's 20 or say that it's 20v. We cannot do that. That's like combining, you may have heard teachers say apples and oranges. You cannot combine variable term and constant term. All right, example 6. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to underline here. I have a 7p and a 12p. Those are both variable terms, so I can combine them. 7b plus 12p gives me 19p. Now I'll take a look at my constants. -6 and a positive 4. Again, be very careful. You have to keep the sign that you see in front of the number. So I'm doing -6 plus 4, which gives me a -2. All right, at this point, there are 2 U-tries for you to do. So you can go ahead and click pause on the video, do these 2 U-tries, and then click play when you're ready to see the answers. All right, let's see how you did. So here are my answers to the first U-try, -25 plus 45x, into the second U-try, -20n minus 4. Now we're going to move on and we're going to combine both skills. So our directions tell us to simplify each expression, and we have to keep in mind that we had 2 skills. So we need to do skill number 1, distributive property, first before we can do skill number 2, which is combining like terms. So we're going to do 2 more examples. Example 7. This reads 11 times parentheses with some stuff inside parentheses plus 12p. So first thing I have to do is the distribution. 11 times parentheses means I have to distribute the 11 to both parts inside the parentheses. So 11 times -6p gives me -66p. I also have to do 11 times -1 to get -11. And then I can't forget, I still have this plus 12p at the end, so I can't just skip that and leave that out of the problem. I have to bring that down. I still have a plus 12p at the end. Now I'm at the point where I can look to combine some like terms. So in this case, I see that I have a -66p and I also have a positive 12p. Those are both variable terms. So I could go ahead and combine those. -66p plus 12p gives me -54p. And then I still have that constant term of -11 left over. So this is going to be my final answer, -54p minus 11. And again, we did the first skill, we distributed the 11. The second skill is what I underlined here in pink, where I'm combining my 2 variable terms, combine like terms. All right, last example for today, example 8. This reads -10 minus 4 times some stuff in parentheses. And I picked this example for a reason. This is a tricky one. Very common mistake is that students will do -10 minus 4 to get -14. They'll combine those before doing skill number 1. Skill number 1 is distributive property. So this is -4 times parentheses. So the first thing I have to do is take this -4 here and distribute it to both terms or to both parts inside parentheses. I have this -10 out front. I can just leave the -10 out front. I'm bringing that down. Same idea as over here, how we brought the 12p down. That's not part of distribution. So I keep the -10, and now I'm doing -4 times -8 to get a positive 32. -4 times 4a gives me -16a. So I'm done. I did the distributive property, and now I get to combine like terms. And in this case, I can see that I have 2 constant terms, the -10 and the positive 32. So I can do negative 10 plus 32, which gives me 22. And then I still have my variable term, the negative 16a. And this would be your final answer, 22 minus 16a. This time, pause the video and give these two U-tries a shot. So I provided my work, and then I here have boxed my answers. So first I did the distributive property, I distributed the 8, and then I combined like terms, the negative 8 and the 80. So my final answer for this U-try was 72 plus 32r. And then for the very last U-try, I distributed the 4. That was the first skill that I had to do. And then I could combine like terms, the 28x and the negative 10x. So my final answer was 18x minus 44. Please let me know what questions you have, and thanks for watching.